April 19, 2017, transmitting the above report pursuant to Chapter 19, Section 19-90D of the Hawaii County Code. The total value of net taxable real property is $30,456,654,447.
My question just has to do with the disputed assessments. I just was wondering how you factor that in when balancing the budget, because there's sort of a significant amount of money that may be in dispute.
Okay.
So I just was wondering how,
I'd like to ask
Okay,
Diana
that's
to
fine.
address that too.
Diana Sacco, Deputy Director of Finance. So whenever we have the appeals, the reason we have the deadline of April 9th is so that we do get it in time to certify the values. So half of the value that's in dispute is deducted from the certified values already. So what we're certifying already has that
Built in.
removed. And 50% is pretty consistent, based on historical, experience. So we feel good with that estimate.
And I'm sorry I didn't ask you that the other day when I was asking you a lot of
Oh, no
questions.
problem.
It
No
just
problem. Yeah.
kind of came clear right now.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you require that deadline in order to further determine the difference. But
Right,
it's
so we have
normally,
all of that.
normally half of what.
Right, normally half is what we deduct, and
Disputed.
so that's already been taken into account. So if we win more than half, that's
Mhm.
great, and if we lose a little more, then we tighten our belts a little bit.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Kanuha.
Thank you. In terms of the appeals, how long does it usually take to go through that process? For an individual trying to appeal what came out. I've gotten a few complaints from individuals saying it takes, longer than normal, or
Actually, I would like to think we're the best in the state, actually.
maybe, but how long does it take?
So when they file in April, and then we have our tax board of review meet during the months of July, August, September, if we need to, into October. But each person is scheduled, and we do it in half-day increments. So in addition, the appraiser is contacting them ahead of time, trying to work out anything. So the longest time period they're really waiting for is for their scheduled meeting. So, if they, in a year when we have a lot of appeals, I guess they could be more later in the fall. But everything's resolved, I would say, by the end of October. Yeah, by the end of October, pretty much they're all resolved and in the system. If any, some of the other counties, don't even meet or get them all resolved in the current year.
Mhm.
And in addition, our board makes their decision right there in front of the taxpayer. So, they're getting really their decision right away. And then we try to get it into the system as quickly as we can as well.
Definitely, and
Mhm.
I just brought that up because there's not like a mass,
Right.
group coming to my office saying that
Mhm.
we have big problems. Just like one or two here and there, and I
Right.
get a lot of good answers from
Mhm.
the department, and
Yeah.
trying to relay back to them the process. And it's very easy to follow, and I know there's not everybody will be satisfied with that, but I just wanted to bring that up because it's just something that came to my office.
No, good, thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a couple. We did hear from the Real Property Tax Department that they are going to be implementing new software, hardware for doing the assessments,
The cost tables, yes.
the cost tables, and these assessments don't reflect that yet. This is done in the old style?
The current way, yes.
The current way,
Yeah.
okay. The old style. Okay, so next year we might actually see some differences in the assessments potentially, or?
Stan and Lisa are here as well, but I'm not sure if it would be the next year or the following year, but,
Okay.
we're going to continue to look at them so that there's no, abrupt changes, into the assessments that we do.
Okay,
So,
great. Yeah, that's good to make a smooth transition. And my next question is, I'm going to put it in layman's terms. Was there anything in the validation of these assessed values that came as a surprise to either of you?
No, our staff are really good, and they did run all their analysis and, coefficients of whatever, and everything looked great, yes.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Hara. Anyone else? Council members? Questions? No? Well, before we close and take a vote, I have one. Speaking of assessments and appeals, say if someone comes in and their amount that they need to pay is based on an assessment that they're appealing, and they are required to pay that upfront, that new assessment amount, right? Then they go through the appeal process. It takes a few months to complete that. After it's determined, say they win the appeal, and their amount that they needed to pay came out to be less. How long does it take, or what's the process of refunding the overpayment? And the reason I'm asking is because I've had calls about that, and I'm not sure how to answer that, but I'm thinking that since we're discussing that here, I think it's a good process to.
I think most people have it applied to their second half payment, so their second half payment would just be less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you, Lisa and Stan. Okay, so that would be the process would be they would get credited for the next.
Yeah, so then their
okay,
second half payment would just
Would
be
be
significantly less.
Less.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you, because I think they assumed that they would get, they would get a refund but it would be credited. That makes sense, and less paperwork. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And that's all the questions I had. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you.
All right. Council members,